Hello everyone and welcome to the second episode of my Arizona adventure. I'm your host Jack Baker and thank you for joining me for the second day of this mini-series travelogue all about my adventure through Arizona, funnily enough. If you haven't listened to yesterday's episode, this mini-series is basically just going to be me having a little chat, telling you about my trip, telling you about all of the wonderful nature and animals and incredible things that I encounter along the way while I am here for the NAAEE Environmental Education Conference that's going on later this week, which I'm very, very excited to be attending. So yeah, yesterday we talked all about my first impressions, my first day. What else did we talk about? I went to the botanical gardens yesterday, so we talked about that. And today I'm back to tell you a little bit about my second day where I went up to Phoenix. I got up bright and early this morning, jumped on a bus and was taken on a 2-hour drive from Tucson, where I'm staying, up to the lovely city of Phoenix, which, yeah, I didn't actually see much of. I was going specifically for one purpose only, which I'm sure a lot of you who know me will know that purpose. I wanted to visit Phoenix Zoo. I was very, very excited for that. Of course, I would want to go when I'm here. I'd seen it listed as one of the best zoos in North America. It was on a bunch of lists as like, look at this, it's amazing. Da, da, da. So I was like, okay, I have to go. I know it's a bit of a trek, but I have to go. And I have to say that we're not doing a full review. We'll save that for a proper podcast review later on. But I did. I absolutely loved it. I had the best day. But before I got there, there was a couple of things I wanted to mention to you. And that was basically something, again, taxi drivers are excellent people to speak to. Bus drivers, excellent people to speak to because they know all the local knowledge. They know everything about everything and were so helpful and so kind. So when I arrived in Phoenix, I was speaking to the person who was taking me to the zoo and they were talking all about the local area, some of the local wildlife, some of the local geological rock formations. They were telling me about the Camelback Mountains that kind of stretch along near Phoenix and pointing them out to me. And yes, indeed, they do look a bit like a camel. Although I don't want to say it, but guys, all mountains look like camels because they're all humps, but we'll not get too bogged down in the naming. And they also told me about one of the really famous geological structures that's found up there, which is the Hole-in-the-Rock, which was really, really interesting. They were telling me all about some of the different things. It's apparently a very popular hike. The formation itself is made out of sandstone, and basically it is a big hole in a rock, if you were to describe it in its most basic sense. But what makes it interesting is that it was carved out by water a long time ago. And since then, it was actually, I wrote this down so I didn't get it wrong, the Hohokam, I think. If I've mispronounced that, I'm very sorry, but I think the Hohokam people who lived in this area a long time ago, their kind of culture, when it was kind of founded, they used the hole in the rock as a calendar. They placed different rocks around this big hole, and when the sun shone through the hole onto specific rocks, it indicated different points in the calendar, because obviously as the sun moves and through this... so clever and so cool, and I thought it was amazing, and apparently it has huge cultural significance, and yeah, it was used for agriculture. There was a lot to do with kind of the cultural significance of the solstices, because obviously they impact on this kind of sun-based calendar thing, and it was just, yeah, really, really interesting. Not strictly like wildlifey, naturey related, more kind of like geology, but still interesting, and for anyone who's interested in hiking and being outdoors, really, really cool, really, really interesting stuff. And I, loved hearing about it. But aside from that, my main purpose for going to Phoenix, of course, was to go to the zoo. As I've said, I'm not going to do a full review of it, but it was incredible. Just some brief things I wanted to mention today, because obviously anyone who knows me knows I could talk about zoos for hours and hours and hours, but I'm going to try and keep it short and concise. Two things I'm very bad at, but I'll try my very, very best. Phoenix Zoo, what did I think? When I first pulled up outside, I thought it has such a grand entrance. The first impressions are fantastic. You go up, you get your tickets, and then you walk across this bridge, across this beautiful kind of water, which had all these little turtles and slider things kind of swimming around in it. And then you go into the zoo first of all. And I think the area I want to focus on is actually the first one you come to. It's the Arizona Trail. So the zoo itself is made up into all of these different areas. There's kind of a savanna trail, there's a tropical trail, there's a children's area as well, the kind of barn area. And so there's all these trails, and the first one you come to is the Arizona Trail. And as it is kind of the big zoo in the state, I think it's just fantastic. As I've said when I've talked on the podcast about the Highland Wildlife Park back home in Scotland, I love when zoos really represent the area in which they're found and the area that they kind of, they're trying to educate people about. And so I thought it was great. They had this whole, I think it's quite a new area dedicated to Arizona. And it featured incredible, wonderful, amazing animals. I saw more rattlesnakes than I think I even knew existed. I think I read somewhere there are over 30 species of rattlesnake, all different colours, all different sizes, beautiful reptilian eyes and scales, and fantastic. I loved them. I saw mountain lions, which I can't remember ever seeing mountain lions before, and they did not disappoint. I think something that's really interesting that I learned about mountain lions, they don't roar. They're big cats. They look kind of like any other cat that is large and kind of intimidating. They're kind of these sleek, kind of brown cats, but they can't roar. They instead, they kind of chirp, they whistle, they purr, they growl. And I saw somewhere the females apparently scream in an attempt to attract males. I don't know how successful it is. Clearly very, if they have lasted this long. But really, really interesting. And yeah, they when I first went up, they were kind of hidden away at the back, and you kind of could see them a little bit, but they were very much asleep. And so the second time I went up, I was like looking around at the back. I couldn't see them, couldn't like make out where they were. And then of course, in classic I'm not paying proper attention fashion, they were lying right across the front, like just probably a meter away from me. But because they had that beautiful brown colour, I'm going to give myself a way out, because they had that beautiful brown colour, they kind of disappeared in. And apparently they're very common in the foothills around Tucson and in other areas around Arizona. And so, they're a kind of cultural state icon. And I think it was so exciting and wonderful to see them. Who else was there? There was, opposite them, there was a bobcat, which bobcats can cram themselves into shockingly small spaces. I walked past and it was just kind of like wedged itself in to like these two rocks, and I really loved it. For people who don't know what a bobcat is, I, as someone who is from Scotland and kind of Europe, I guess, by extension, it's very similar to a lynx. If you know what a lynx looks like, these kind of smaller, bigger than a house cat, but smaller than a big cat. Cats, kind of the kind of pointy ears. I would not shock me if they were related. I can't tell you for sure, because I don't know. But they're fascinating, beautiful thing, and I loved that as well. What else? I've written them down because I was like, there's certain things I want to highlight the Arizona species. Pronghorns. That was what I wanted to talk about. Pronghorns, I think I would be happy to try and make the argument that the pronghorn is perhaps one of the most beautiful and aesthetically pleasing animals on earth. For those of you who don't know what a pronghorn is, look up images of them. They are antelope-like. They are not antelopes. They have their own, I think it's taxonomic group away from the kind of rest of the antelopes. I think I read somewhere the other antelope in North America, or the other antelopes are part of the Bovidae family, and these guys are off somewhere else by themselves. So they are kind of unique. They have this kind of browny, golden and white coat. They're about, I think about a meter and a half tall. They're these big things, and they have these beautiful horns, as the name suggests, pronghorn, that kind of stick out the top of their head and form a prong. And they're just fascinating. I'd never seen them before. And I think the theme of this series is going to be Jack overwhelmed by North American species, which he didn't know kind of just how beautiful they were in real life. Because like the hummingbird yesterday, these guys were my most valued player, my MVP of the day. They were just fantastic, and they triggered that same kind of emotional response where kind of I just kind of was like, whoa, and overwhelmed. And I think they're just perfect. And I seeing them in this kind of setting within the Phoenix Zoo was great. But then when I think I read somewhere out in the wild, they can be in herds of up to about 1,000 individuals, which is crazy and huge. And I don't know how I just amazing. Huge groups, fantastic. And imagining them in that setting is just so beautiful to me. And I just was overwhelmed and kind of like, oh, and then someone came up and were like, oh, it's just like a goat. And you know that way where internally you're listening to somebody making commentary in a zoo and you're like, and I didn't say anything, listeners, you'd be proud of me, but I was not pleased because I was having an emotional, spiritual connection to these animals, and I love them. And anyone who's from the US, you have one of the most beautiful animals I've ever seen. So be incredibly proud of your pronghorns, because I'm incredibly jealous of them. I think I looked this up after I got home because I wanted to know a little bit more about them. So I went onto the San Diego Zoo website. Always a good resource. They seem to have information on everything. And I was like, do they have horns? Do they have antlers? And apparently they don't have kind of either, truly. They have, so the way that the San Diego Zoo defines it is that horns are made of keratin and antlers are made of bones. And pronghorns don't have either of those. So the sheath of their kind of structures on top of their head is made of keratin, but the horns kind of shed. So yeah, they kind of don't have either of these kind of standard features of either, and it's a unique, wonderful, special thing, and I think that's so incredible. And yeah, they are also another bonus point. I'm now just reviewing the pronghorn for you all, but go and learn more about them beyond what I'm telling you now, because I probably haven't even scratched the surface. They're also one of the fastest land animals on Earth. They can run at speeds of up to 60 miles an hour. They're very, very fast, and it's a kind of sad twist. Remember, if you've listened to previous episodes, you might have heard me mention the fact that there used to be cheetahs in North America, and these guys, they evolved alongside them. So they got really, really fast to try and get away. And then the cheetahs in North America went extinct. So now they're super, super fast with no one to chase them. And so really, really cool, unique, special features of the pronghorn that I've talked about. Really, this is just the pronghorn episode. Maybe I'll make that the title, because I just loved them and they were great. What else? Oh, peccaries, little piggy boys, who I was like, oh, so cute. They apparently have a very, very sharp teeth and can be quite protective and aggressive, but still, when I saw them, they were all lying in the shade in this big pile of pig, and I just loved them. They're these little kind of grey, hairy, furry piggies, and just so cute. So cute. I understand that you shouldn't cuddle wildlife, But that didn't stop me deep down wanting to, because I was like, oh, so cute. So they were another standout for me in terms of the kind of Arizona representation. Yeah, and then we get into the birds that really stood out to me after these. We kind of had a big mammal-y section there in the middle. I did talk about reptiles at the start and then lots of mammals, but we're going more bizarre again with birds. And there was lots of birds that stood out, particularly because I think going to a zoo alone, I didn't have someone to talk to, so I was just laughing to myself because all of the things I would normally say out loud, I couldn't say out loud. And I don't know why it was happening. I was just entertaining myself. So I would be walking around and they had amazing things like condors, which I'd never seen before. These huge, one of the biggest birds I've ever seen in my life. Huge wingspan, fantastic. They are big, kind of black with these pink heads. And so I was standing looking at this magnificent, beautiful, incredible thing. And then, all I could think about was the bit in Jurassic Park where the guy, Richard Attenborough's character, John Hammond, he's just like, oh, well, if I'd made a flock of condors on this island, then there wouldn't be a problem. And I'm like, Jack, that's not funny. It's not entertaining to anyone, but it's all I can take away from my condor experience. And it was the same. I saw bald eagles. Every time I see or read bald eagles, all I think about is the scene in Addams Family Values, which it's almost Halloween. Watch this film. It's fantastic. Where they're at a summer camp and Wednesday Addams shoots down a bald eagle. And every time I read bald eagle anywhere, I read it in my head as Christine Baranski in that film after she sees this bald eagle fall to its death, just going, oh, an American bald eagle. And I don't know why, but I just do. And that was making me laugh and entertaining myself through the whole day. That wasn't particularly interesting in terms of biological facts or information, but fantastic. Great. Loved them. The last bird I wanted to mention, actually, I don't know if they had them on this. I think they may have had them in one area of the zoo, but these guys were just running about all over the place. They are a type of quail that they have here in Arizona, and they're the most bizarre little things. So these little quails have they are kind of these little ploofy, round birds, and they have these big, long, kind of almost imagine like an anglerfish kind of plumage coming out their head, and it kind of stretches forward. And they have that because, of course, in all birds and in all animals, it's all about showing off, isn't it? And so they have this big plumage, and apparently no jokes will be made by me on this point, but the bigger the plumage, the more impressive the male. I'm saying nothing. And apparently they use that big plumage to show off. And apparently although I don't think, even if I was a female, I don't think I'd be too impressed with them because they're just dopey little things. They are running around all over the place. They don't seem to have the best judgment. I was just walking up a path in the zoo by myself. And one of them, you know that way where you see something start to walk and looks quite nervous and it's kind of hesitant? And I'm like, it's like it couldn't determine if I was a threat or not. So I was walking, and the closer I got to it, it decided only when I was about next to it on the road that it wanted to flee. But it didn't flee back into the bush behind itself. It committed to that forward step it had been taking, zoomed across the path in front of me. I almost stepped on it because it was going so fast and just kind of didn't expect it to come out of anywhere. And yeah, I loved them. These weird little quails, which are fantastic and amazing. And I can't remember the exact species. I'll put it in the description of the episode so you can look it up. They are just beautiful little weird, silly things. And just, fantastic. What else about the zoo should I mention? That's kind of the main thing. We are My Arizona Adventure. So I did want to talk mainly about those guys. But the zoo itself, I think, stood out for other reasons as well. There are things in the zoo that I had never seen before in my life. And I think it's something to do with the fact of kind of like being in European zoos, the collections are different, the zoos that you guys have in the States. So it was really kind of like a strange kind of change where like things that are maybe more common at home, they didn't have here, but they had kind of twists on them. So things like, I have seen thousands of short-clawed otters throughout my life. But here at Phoenix Zoo, they had an otter. They had an otter species, but it was one I was completely unfamiliar with. They had a spotted-necked otter, which come from Africa, and very similar in kind of that ottery shape, but they have this beautiful kind of white neck that kind of has spots up around the kind of face. Beautiful, wonderful. What else? They had maned wolves. Never seen a maned wolf before. They had Thompson's gazelle. I'd never seen a Thompson's gazelle before, and I've loved them since I was little. So that was really magical. They had Chinese alligators, which were they were kind of little alligators, but very, very cute, very, very cool. They had, this was a cool one, another bird. We're coming back to birds. You may remember a while ago, if you've listened to Pangolin, the main series, I had Ellen Weatherford, sorry Ellen, if you're listening, Ellen Weatherford from Just the Zoo of Us on, and we talked about the spoonbills. They had roseate spoonbills, and I couldn't get a good photo because they were all tucked up into themselves, but these beautiful pink birds with this bizarre long kind of spoon-shaped, funnily enough, bill, and so it was amazing to see those for the first time. They had Siamangs. So it's been a long day, guys. Siamangs, which are a type of gibbon. I believe they're the biggest type of gibbon. They can grow to be 1 meter tall. And I'd never seen them, but I've always been fascinated by them because the way they run on land, they hold their kind of arms up like they're kind of like really nervous about something, and they kind of jump across. It's fantastic. I've always kind of had this fascination with seeing them, and they're just amazing. These kind of black apes with these kind of long arms, long legs. If you're familiar with any other types of gibbons, they are very similar in body shape and the kind of lankiness there. But these guys are just, I don't know, maybe it was just because I hadn't seen them before. They were just extra special. They also had a little baby. So there was 2 adults and a little baby living on this island together. And seeing the little baby, which looked even more out of proportion than the adults running around, was just incredible. It was kind of fantastic. They climbed up this huge palm tree, which was the last thing I watched in the day. And it was giving me all of the nerves in the world because I was like, oh my gosh, it was swinging around on palm leaves, which I know are probably very well attached deep down in my heart. I know that. But watching this tiny little endangered ape swinging around from like this very thin looking leaf was very intimidating and very scary. And yeah, made me very, 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 very nervous. But no, it was overall, apart from that nerve, a fantastic, wonderful day. And I loved Phoenix Zoo and particularly the Arizona wildlife that I saw so much. I couldn't recommend it enough. It was just, yeah, it was brilliant. And I can see why now, looking back on all the lists I saw of zoos you must visit in the US, I can see why it made it on, because it was just fantastic. It was just great. I did have to kind of rush a little bit because there was so much to see, and I think they're developing it more into kind of even bigger, better, bigger things. And so it was just, yeah, it was a fantastic, amazing day, and I can't wait. I'll have to come back and see what happens in the future to make it even bigger and better. I think it was like a predator corridor they're developing or something, and it was next to their savannah area, so I guess it will maybe be something to do with maybe lions or hyenas or who knows, I don't know, but it just looks fantastic, and it looks like, yeah, it's going to be such an exciting, amazing project. Now, I have talked for about 25 minutes, which was not my intention. I might as well have just done the full resume now by myself. But we won't be doing that. What we will be talking about is what happened after the zoo. So I left, I loved it, jumped back on a bus, came back here to my lovely hotel, had a lovely relax, enjoyed some nice TV, and now I am talking to you while getting ready for tomorrow. Because tomorrow I am going out again to another zoo. I'm going to go out to Reed Park Zoo, which is based here in Tucson. I'm going to go there, going to have a wander around, see some more different animals, hopefully some more Arizona favourites, maybe some new species I've never seen before. And again, you'd think after days and days of zoos and long travel, I'd be exhausted, but I'm not. I'm just thrilled and excited to be here because, yeah, I think it really hit me on the bus back, like as the sun was going down over the desert and we were driving along this highway, that like, I'm somewhere so new and so different and so exciting. And I'm just so grateful, and I'm going to cherish every moment that I'm here because I think it just is so special and so exciting. And I just love it. Oh, I don't know. I'm getting all excited and emotional for tomorrow. I'm going to have to start recording these earlier in the day because I get too tired and emotional at night. No. Yeah, so I guess I need to go to bed and get ready for tomorrow. Reed Park Zoo. I'm also going to wander around downtown Tucson and see what I can find, see if there's any more nature, more plants, more things for me to investigate, maybe some parks that I can see stuff in. We'll see. Whatever happens, I'll be sure to update you on everything because you know me, I can't stop talking. But until then, if you want to keep up to date with the show and my adventures, you can follow the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, at Pangolin Podcast on everything. You can also you can also subscribe to the show on your streaming service of choice, whether that be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you are. Hit the subscribe or follow button and you can enjoy us and all of the old episodes if you're new here. As well. You can also follow me on social media to see even more pictures. I'm at OnlyJackBaker on Twitter and at TheOnlyJackBaker on Instagram. That's all the self-promo and things I have to tell you about today. I guess all that remains to be said is thank you so much once again, guys, for joining me on this fantastic, wonderful travel adventure that we're having together. Until next time, I've got my big sign off. Until next time, thank you so much, everyone, for joining me on my Arizona adventure. Goodbye and good night. I'm going to bed. Bye.